3 years ago, I came home early from a work trip, hoping to create one of the happiest memories of my life. Instead, I walked into my worst nightmare. It was supposed to be our second wedding anniversary, mine and my husband Josh's. I had planned everything perfectly. I told him I had an important presentation that morning and that I'd be off my phone. In reality, I caught a 4-hour flight from Washington, D.C. to Austin, Texas, just so I could surprise him. I imagined his reaction the entire way, the smile, the excitement, the way he'd pull me into a hug. I even called my best friend Leah to pick me up from the airport. During the 30-minute drive home, she kept saying how happy Josh would be to see me. I believed her. I really did. But the moment I walked into my house, everything shattered. There, in my bedroom, my bed, was my baby sister, Maya. Half naked. She had just turned 20. For a second, she froze like a statue the moment she saw me. Leah gasped behind me, completely shocked. "What the hell are you doing here, Maya?" Leah shouted. But I couldn't say a word. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Maya stayed silent too. Her lips parted like she wanted to explain, but nothing came out. Then the bathroom door opened. Josh walked out, completely unaware we were there. "What's all the noise, babe?" he said casually, to her. To Maya. And then, he saw me. Everything went quiet. His face drained of color. His mouth hung open as he looked between the three of us, panic written all over him. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Maya broke the silence. "Luna. I can explain. It's not what you think," she said, stepping toward me, her voice shaking. "You need to understand the situation first." "Let me explain," Josh added quickly, his tone desperate. But I had already heard enough. Seen enough. There was no explanation in the world that could fix what I had just witnessed. So I turned around, and walked out. Leah followed right behind me as they both started shouting my name. Maya even grabbed my hand, trying to stop me, but I pulled away. I didn't look back. Not even once. That night, Josh didn't stop trying. He kept texting me. Calling me. Begging for a chance to explain. When I didn't respond, he even called Leah, desperate, asking her to convince me to talk to him. He said he wanted a second chance. He said he wanted forgiveness. But I didn't answer. Not once. Because what was there to explain? Two people I loved the most had betrayed me in the worst possible way. And no amount of words could undo what I saw. So I chose silence. I chose distance. I chose myself. But then, my parents called. At first, I thought maybe, just maybe, they were calling to support me. I was wrong. Their excuses were unbelievable. "She's just a teenager," they said. "She's confused. Josh probably manipulated her. She needs you right now, you're her big sister." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. When I refused to agree with them, they started shouting. They wanted me to forgive Maya. Just like that. Just because she was 5 years younger than me. But the truth is, this wasn't the first time. Not even close. Growing up, Maya always took things from me, my dolls, my clothes, anything that was mine. And if she couldn't have it, she'd destroy it. And every single time, my parents said the same thing. "She's younger than you. You need to understand." So I stayed quiet. I let it go. Again and again. I never stood up for myself. Not once. But this time, it was different. This time, she didn't take a toy. She took my husband. And I wasn't going to let that go. Not for my parents. Not for my little sister. Not anymore. When my grandmother found out, she was the only one who stood by me. She always had, especially when my parents were too busy focusing on Maya. And honestly, her support was all I needed. So that night, I made a decision. I cut them all off. My parents. Maya. Josh. No calls. No messages. No explanations. Nothing. I didn't want drama. I didn't want closure. I just wanted peace. After the divorce was finalized, I didn't look back. Around the same time, I got a promotion at work, something I had worked so hard for. It felt like life was finally giving me a way out, a fresh start. So I took it. I moved to a new city, far away from everything that reminded me of my past. I didn't tell many people, only Leon knew my new address. I didn't want anyone else showing up, asking questions, or trying to reopen wounds I was still trying to heal. And slowly, I started to feel like myself again. It wasn't easy. Healing never is. Some days were harder than others. But day by day, I was moving forward. Grandma told me later that Maya had also moved to another state. I didn't ask for details. I didn't care. Because for the first time in my life, I was finally choosing me. And then, I met Mike. At first, I was scared. Scared to trust again. Scared to let someone get close enough to hurt me like that again. But Mike was different. He was patient with me. gentle in a way I had never experienced before. He never rushed me, never pushed me to open up before I was ready. And when I finally told him everything, about Josh, about Maya, about my parents, I expected him to look at me differently. But he didn't. He just listened. And then he stayed. He supported me on the days I felt broken. He reminded me that what happened to me was not something I deserved. That walking away didn't make me weak, it made me strong. For the first time, I felt safe. Truly safe. And it wasn't just him. His family welcomed me with open arms. They knew about my past, every painful detail, and yet, they never judged me for it. They respected my decision to cut off my family. They never once made me feel guilty for choosing my own peace. They treated me like I belonged. Like I mattered. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. But my past didn't completely stay in the past. Every now and then, my parents would try to call me. Not to apologize. Not to take responsibility. Just to act like nothing had really happened. And Maya? She never reached out. Not once. At family events, ones I only attended for my grandmother, they would try to talk to me. Try to ask about my life. About Mike. But I ignored them. The same way they ignored my pain. The same way they dismissed everything I went through. I had spent my whole life staying quiet for them. I wasn't going to do that anymore. This time, they didn't get access to me. This time, I chose distance. I chose boundaries. I chose peace. About 6 months ago, something happened that changed everything. And for the first time in years, it felt like I didn't have to chase closure anymore. It came to me. It was Mike's grandfather's 90th birthday, a huge family celebration. Weeks before the event, Mike had been unusually thoughtful, a little more serious than usual. He kept bringing up the future, asking subtle questions about where I saw myself in a few years. He never said it directly, but I could feel it. He was thinking about proposing. And this night? This was important to him. He told me he wanted me to meet everyone, his entire family, not just the few I already knew. He wanted them to know who I was, and, in a way, what I meant to him. I said yes. Not just because I loved him, but because, for the first time, I wasn't afraid of building something real again. I had no idea that the past I worked so hard to escape would be waiting for me there. The evening started beautifully. The house was warm, filled with laughter, music, and the kind of comfort that comes from being surrounded by people who genuinely care about each other. It felt safe. Mike stayed close to me the whole time, his hand brushing against mine, reassuring me without needing words. His mom was glowing with pride as she introduced me to relatives, cousins, aunts, uncles, people I had never met before. "This is her," she would say with a smile, like I was already part of the family. And for a moment, I believed it. I allowed myself to relax. To enjoy. To belong. And then, the door opened. And everything inside me went still. I didn't notice the sound of laughter anymore. Or the music. All I saw was her. Maya. Standing at the entrance, walking in like she belonged there. Like she had every right to exist in the same space as me. She wasn't alone. A young man stood beside her, close enough to show they were together. His hand rested gently at the small of her back, guiding her inside with quiet familiarity. For a moment, my brain refused to process it. It didn't make sense. Not here. Not now. And then it hit me. Something my grandmother had mentioned months ago. Maya had moved to Florida, and she was seeing someone. My chest tightened. Slowly, I turned to Mike, trying to keep my voice steady. "Who is that?" I asked, nodding slightly in their direction. He followed my gaze, completely unaware of the storm building inside me. "Oh, that's Austin," he said easily. "My aunt's stepson." I felt the ground shift under me. He kept talking. "He's been dating this girl for almost a year now. He really loves her, actually. He told me not long ago that he's thinking about marrying her someday." Every word felt heavier than the last. Then he glanced back at me, noticing something in my expression. "Wait," he said slowly. "Do you know her?" I had never shown him Maya's picture. Never even said her name. So he didn't know. Until that moment. I looked straight at him and said it. "That's my sister." The silence between us was immediate. Thick. Heavy. Mike's expression changed in an instant, his easy smile gone, replaced by shock and confusion. He looked back at Maya. Then at me. Then again at her. Like he was trying to convince himself he heard me wrong. But he hadn't. "Are you serious?" he asked quietly. I nodded. And just like that, the entire night shifted. His jaw tightened slightly, and I could see the discomfort settle in. Not just for himself, but for me. "For you," he said gently, lowering his voice. "What do you want to do? We can leave. Right now." There was no hesitation in his tone. If I said the word, we'd be gone. But I shook my head. No, I said firmly. I had spent years rebuilding my life. I wasn't going to walk away from it again. Not because of her. Not this time. A few minutes passed. And then, it happened. Maya saw me. And the moment our eyes met, everything on her face changed. It was almost instant. The confidence she walked in with disappeared completely. Her posture stiffened, her expression faltered, and for the first time since I had known her, she looked uncertain. Uncomfortable. Almost afraid. She froze where she stood, like she didn't know whether to approach me, or pretend she hadn't seen me at all. So she chose neither. Instead, she avoided me. Her eyes kept darting away, her movements suddenly awkward, like she was trying to disappear into the crowd without actually leaving. It didn't go unnoticed. People started picking up on the tension, the strange shift in her behavior, the way she couldn't seem to settle. Austin noticed too. He leaned toward her, his voice filled with concern. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked softly. But she didn't answer. Not him. Not anyone. She just shook her head slightly, like she was overwhelmed, her eyes refusing to look in my direction again. And then, without a word to anyone, she turned around and walked out. And just like that, the girl who had once taken everything from me couldn't even stand in the same room as me anymore. That night, everything felt different. The celebration was still going on downstairs, laughter, music, people talking like nothing had changed. But for me, everything had already shifted. Mike and I stayed at his grandparents' house that night. Neither of us said much at first. I think we were both trying to process how something from my past had suddenly collided with my present, in the worst possible way. But one thing never changed. He didn't let go of me. Not once. His presence grounded me, reminding me that I wasn't that helpless version of myself anymore. Still, I knew the truth couldn't stay hidden. Not here. Not when it was already this close to the surface. So later that night, I sat down with his mom. She had always been kind to me, warm, understanding, the kind of person who listens before judging. And because of that, I trusted her. I told her everything. Who Maya really was. What she had done. How she had slept with my husband. How that single betrayal destroyed my marriage, and my relationship with my entire family. At first, she didn't react. She just stared at me, her expression frozen in disbelief, like her mind needed a moment to catch up with what she had just heard. And then, something shifted. Her shock turned into something sharper. Protective. And before I could even think about what might happen next, she stood up. And she told everyone. It spread faster than I expected. One conversation turned into another, whispers moved across the room, faces changed as people started connecting the dots. The same people who had welcomed Maya just hours ago, now looked at her very differently. Confused. Uncomfortable. Some even angry. Because this wasn't just a small lie. This was something deeper. Something deliberate. And that's when the rest of the truth started coming out. Because apparently, Maya hadn't just hidden me. She had erased me. During her entire relationship with Austin, she never once mentioned having a sister. Not a single word. Instead, she told everyone she was an only child. But that wasn't even the worst lie. She had created an entirely different version of her past. One where she was the victim. She told Austin that her ex-boyfriend had cheated on her, with her best friend. That he had been abusive. That she had to leave everything behind and move away to protect herself. She painted herself as someone who had been hurt, someone who deserved sympathy. But the truth? She was the one who cheated. She was the one who destroyed a marriage. She was the one who walked into my life and took what was never hers to take. And now, there was nowhere left to hide. Austin didn't stay silent. From what I heard later, the moment he found out, he went straight to her. No hesitation. No delay. He wanted answers. Real ones. At first, she did what she always did. She tried to twist the story. She cried. She tried to make herself look like the victim again, like everything had been misunderstood, like she had been unfairly judged. For a moment, it almost worked. Because she had always been good at that. But not this time. Because this time, there were too many people, too many truths, too many contradictions. And slowly, her story started to fall apart. Piece by piece. Until she had nothing left to hide behind. And finally, she admitted it. All of it. But even then, she didn't take responsibility. Not really. Her words were the same ones I had heard my entire life. I was just a child. It was a one-time mistake. She overreacted. Even now, after everything, she still couldn't face what she had done without minimizing it. Still couldn't say, I was wrong. But Austin? He didn't accept it. Not the excuses. Not the tears. Nothing. And from that moment on, everything moved fast. Too fast. Within a week. It was over. He broke up with her. And he asked her to leave. Just like that. Mike's mom kept me updated through it all. She didn't have to. But I think, in her own way, she wanted me to know that the truth had mattered, that it had made a difference. And honestly, I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel revenge. But I did feel something I hadn't expected. Relief. Because for once, Maya couldn't run from what she had done. A few days later, I got a message. From Austin. He thanked me. For telling the truth. For not hiding it, for giving him the chance to see reality before he made a decision that could have changed his entire life. And then, he apologized. Not for himself. But for her. For having someone like Maya connected to him. Reading that message, I felt something shift inside me. Because a small part of me had been wondering. Had I gone too far? Had I ruined something? But deep down, I already knew the answer. I didn't break them. I didn't destroy anything. I just told the truth. And the truth did the rest. After everything that happened, I thought that chapter of my life was finally over. Closed. Finished. But I was wrong. Because some people don't let go that easily. One day, out of nowhere, Maya reached out to me. For the first time in 3 years. No apology. No hesitation. Just blame. She accused me of ruining her life, of destroying everything she had built. She said I had no right to tell anyone the truth. That I had taken away her future. I read the message twice. And then, I laughed. Not because it was funny. But because it was unbelievable. After everything she had done, she still saw herself as the victim. But she wasn't the only one. My parents reached out too. My mother sent me long messages about how I had destroyed Maya's life, how she was depressed now, how she couldn't handle what had happened. Not once did she ask how I was. Not once did she acknowledge what Maya had done to me. Then my father texted. And somehow, that hurt even less than I expected. He said he felt ashamed to call me his daughter. Ashamed. For telling the truth. The same parents who had defended Maya through every mistake, every lie, every hurtful thing she ever did. Now called me selfish. Because I refused to stay silent this time. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I didn't even feel angry. I just laughed again. Because at that point, their words had lost all meaning. Even Leah texted me, telling me what was happening on their side. They're trying to get your address from me, she said. They're being so pushy, it's almost funny. She laughed about it. Said they sounded desperate. And honestly, she wasn't wrong. They're finally getting their karma, she told me. And they deserve every bit of it. I didn't disagree. But I didn't say much either. Because I knew something they didn't. No matter what I said. It wouldn't change anything. They weren't listening to understand. They were only speaking to blame. So I chose silence. Not because I had nothing to say. But because my peace mattered more than being heard by people who never truly listened. And maybe, for the first time in my life, I protected my feelings by not sharing them. Eventually, the messages stopped. The calls stopped. The noise stopped. Later, I heard from one of my cousins what had happened after everything fell apart. Maya had moved back in with my parents. She was depressed. Struggling. Apparently, she had been completely in love with the life she imagined with Austin. He was everything she wanted. Good-looking, successful, financially stable. She had already pictured her future in Florida, a comfortable, luxurious life. And when it all disappeared, she couldn't handle it. When I heard that, I felt nothing. No happiness. No sadness. No satisfaction. Just nothing. Because at the end of the day, that was her life. Her choices. Her consequences. And mine? Mine turned out very differently. 6 months after everything, I married Mike. The man who stood by me when my world fell apart. The man who never asked me to shrink my pain, never asked me to forgive what I wasn't ready to forgive, never made me feel like I was too much. And just a few days ago, I found out I'm pregnant. For the first time in a long time, I feel complete. At peace. Happy in a way that doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. After the wedding, Mike and I visited my grandmother. She held my hand, looked at me with the same quiet strength she always had, and said, "You did the right thing." And for the first time, I didn't question it. Because I finally understood something. Walking away didn't ruin my life. It saved it.